Welcome to the Wing Space podcast, a place to take up space, a space for you to settle in, sit back, relax, and focus a little bit on health, wellness, faith, family, and this crazy thing called life.
This podcast is not a replacement for mental health treatment or professional health care. In case of crisis or emergency, please contact your local healthcare provider or dial 911.
Hey there, and welcome back to the Wing Space podcast, a place to take up space. Today, I'm gonna chat with you a little bit about this idea of not being so hard on yourself. I feel like we really are our own worst critics, and I don't really know why. So today, I want to talk with you a little bit about considering where that came from, maybe even considering the idea that nobody is perfect. Thinking about what you would say to someone else who has a similar mindset to this, and then really looking at what choices do we have and what steps can we take.
It's that time of year to harness your holiday cheer with Hope and Healing at our latest wellness workshop. Join your fellow Southern Maryland community members at Hope and Healing in Leonardtown on Friday, November 17th from 6 to 7:30. We'll be learning new ways to harness your holiday cheer and create your very own custom aromatherapy blends to bring out your inner Cindy Lou Who and enjoy the holidays. On-site childcare will be provided for $5 a child, and registration is required, so sign up today by visiting our website, hopehealingtherapy.com, or visiting our link in bio on Instagram at Hope Healing Therapy Wellness. Hey listeners, quick intermission with one of our providers at Hope and Healing, Kristen Wilson, LCSWC, who has started offering a new program at Hope and Healing for our couples called Prepare and Enrich. So Kristen, could you give us a little more information about that program?
Prepare and Enrich is a service that we'll be offering to premarital couples. It is a strength-based program that utilizes assessment portion and then subsequent sessions to look at that assessment and discuss what are your strengths, what are the areas of growth, what are conversations that you'd like to have as you are leading up to and preparing for marriage. One of the nice things about Prepare and Enrich is that it covers not only a wide variety of areas, but it can be utilized with couples that are in different stages of life as well. So maybe this is your first marriage. Maybe it is a blending of families that come into play when you are preparing for this. So the idea is that we can support you in that process and support you in having conversations with your partner and planning ahead for success.
And if someone is listening and is interested in seeking out this service for themselves and their partner, how could they go about inquiring or scheduling an appointment?
Contact us at Hope and Healing. You can go to the website and send us your information and we'll get back with you, or you can give us a call and we'll get you scheduled. There's more than one option when it comes to utilizing this program. This is a set group of sessions. So you will either be choosing to engage in 4 sessions or 8 sessions, depending on what your needs are, what your interests are, and what works for you. The assessment is part of both of those. The skill building, the recognizing our growth areas and working on those are included in both of those sets. So you will get that experience, but just the timing of it might look different depending on your needs.
Yes, so you can give us a call at 301-690-8404, extension 0. If you get the voicemail, make sure that you leave us one so that we can give you a call back within 24 hours. You can also visit our website, like Kristen mentioned, at hopehealingtherapy.com.
And welcome back to the Wing Space podcast. So when we look at this idea of where did it come from, I want you to consider, who told you? Who told you you had to be perfect? Who told you that you had to do all the things? Who told you you had to be everything to everyone at all the times? Did it come from your childhood where perfection was maybe a behavior that was encouraged? Sometimes that comes out of a necessity of just trying to maintain order in chaos. So it's not a criticism of our parents. It's not a criticism of our parents' parents or wherever that came from. But knowing where it came from can help you to kind of figure out, okay, where did that come from and why don't we want to continue that? I know for me, I can tell you that my brother didn't do so hot in school. And I distinctly remember a time when him and my mom were having a disagreement about schoolwork. And I remember standing at the top of the stairs, listening to that argument and saying to myself, I never want to make my mom that mad. And I know for me, that's where a lot of that strive to do all the things in the right way came from. So it helps me to know that's where it came from. It helps me to know that nobody said I had to, right? Nobody said it has to be all the things. My mom never told me, my dad, my brother, nobody ever told me it had to be perfect. But I know for me, in that moment is where this idea came from. And I often go back to that little girl that was standing at the top of the stairs listening to that and challenge that idea that it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be right. It doesn't have to be all the things. So asking yourself, where did that come from? Was it your childhood? Was it your family? Was it, through the course of high school? Was it peers? Was it college? Was it in the neighborhood? Like, where did it come from? And you might even consider, did it come from sources outside of the people in our lives? For instance, right now, one of the things that has a huge impact on us is social media and this idea of comparison. So maybe we're swimming along just fine and we're doing all the things and we're feeling good. We think we've got things going well, and then we see something on social media and it totally throws us for a loop. And so now we're striving for something that we saw on social media that really isn't the bar that needs to be set. But we've decided for ourselves that that's the bar. So being able to consider this idea of not being so hard on yourself, we have to first start with, where did it come from? And we always hear people say nobody's perfect, but here's the reality. Nobody's perfect. And I know for me, in my Christian faith, the only perfect person that's ever walked this earth is Jesus. And I can't be him. I can try really hard to be a really nice, kind person, but I can't be perfect. And when we set the bar to perfection, we set ourselves up for failure. It's just the reality, because we cannot be perfect. We cannot do all the things all the time in all the right ways. And so we sometimes, I think, need to step back and maybe look at our lives from someone else's perspective. Maybe consider, if someone was standing on top of a mountain looking down on our life, what would they see? And how does that compare with what we see when we're looking at our lives, right? Because we have a really small focus. We can only see what we can see. That's why habit tracking, which we're going to get into some thoughts on tracking in some upcoming episodes, but that's why habit tracking can be really helpful, because then you can see over time the accomplishment rather than just a snippet in the moment, which is what we're looking at right now. So stepping back and really taking notice of what's actually happening, the big picture, what's really happening here. So I'm going to use the example of maybe the idea of reading. So a number of years ago, maybe a fun story for another podcast, I started reading. And each year since then, I've started setting a goal for myself to read. So if today I don't read, if I don't pick up a book and read, then I might say, you're a failure, it's useless, you didn't meet your goal, etc., all of the negative self-talk that we say to ourselves. But if I can step back, then I can look at and say, it is the end of October and I've read 29 books. So maybe I didn't read 29 books today. Maybe I didn't read 29 pages today. Maybe I didn't even read 29 minutes today. But so far this year, I've read 29 books. So I need to take a step back and consider that focus and give ourselves a little grace. We have to forgive ourselves. We make mistakes. We don't do everything perfectly. Nobody does everything perfectly. And the same kinds of things that we would say to other people, we really have to say to ourselves. We are so mean to ourselves. We're so unkind. We say the most negative things to ourselves, and it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart for me. It breaks my heart to know that all of you listening, it breaks my heart to know that my children, maybe my husband, my other family members, say such terrible, mean things to ourselves. Things I would never say to someone else. And even I, who try really hard to do things in a kind way for myself because I know that it's important, I still fall back on those habits, those negative habits of that negative self-talk. And so sometimes we just have to give ourselves a break. And we have to consider the perspective. So when I talk with clients about success and failure, I always come back to this quote that I found from Michael Jordan. So when you think about, whether you're a basketball fan or not, you think about Michael Jordan and you think about he's great, he's fantastic, set the bar super, super high, and he's a basketball legend, right? So he has been quoted to say that I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. So when we all think about Michael Jordan, we think about, again, this basketball great. We don't think about 9,000 times he missed his shots. We don't think about the 300 games that he lost. We think about all of the points that he scored. We think about all of the games that he won. We don't think about the times that it was him who took the shot that didn't win the game. We think about him who took the shot that did win the game, right? We don't think about all of the times that we messed up. Thomas Edison, according to Google, hopefully Google didn't lead me astray this morning. According to Google, he said that he doesn't consider that he succeeded once, but that he had 10,000 opportunities to do it a different way. So perspective. And these are things that we might say to other people. We might say, it's okay, just try again. Or I've been told that failure or fail means frequent attempts in learning. So all of these things that we might say to other people, but we don't say to ourselves, right? You're a failure, you're a loser, you can't do anything right. We say all these things to ourselves when really what we have to consider is no one's perfect. We're not perfect. The people that we're cheering on and helping are not perfect, right? So why are we setting the bar for ourselves to be so perfect? We have to give ourselves a break. We have to give ourselves a break. And at the end of the day, we have a choice. We have a choice to continue to be hard on ourselves. We have a choice to continue to have all of this negative self-talk, or we have a choice to give ourselves a break and to say to ourselves the same things that we would say to other people. We can make a choice about our perspective. Is the cup half full or is it half empty? Regardless of the perspective, let's just be honest. If it's an 8-ounce cup, if it's halfway anything, there's 4 ounces, right? So whether it's half full or half empty, it's about perspective, and we have a choice in that. So are we going to choose to say things are going well when maybe there's a few things that aren't going well, but overall things are going well? Or are we going to choose to say, oh, this sucks, nothing's going right, when this one thing might not be going right, but all of these other things are going very well, and we didn't step back to see that full perspective? We can surround ourselves with things that are positive that can help us to make that choice and to find that perspective, whether it's people, whether it's the content that we consume. We make a choice. Now, I'm not telling you to go dump all your negative friends and family, but I am telling you to consider the people that we associate with, to consider the relationships that we have and the influence that those folks have on us. That includes the social media influence, because all of the content that we consume throughout the course of the day impacts us. We feed our brain all day long with information, and we get to choose where that information comes from. The people that we are associated with are feeding us information, right? They're talking to us, they're giving us nonverbal cues, lots of information our brain is picking up on. And then media, whether it's TV, movies, radio, podcasts, social media, all of the artificial content, right, that we're consuming, it all fills our brain, whether it's positive or negative. And our environment itself. So I choose to put like quotes on the walls. And I know that some people say, oh, that's outdated, that's, old decorating or whatever. But I can subconsciously get all kinds of information from the things that are on my walls. So for instance, in my office right now, there's 3 quotes that I can see. There might be more, but with these reading glasses, I can't actually see them. So if you can dream it, you can do it. Walt Disney. I read that probably 10 to 15 times a day, and I don't even realize I'm reading it. Kind heart, fierce mind, brave spirit. Be you bravely. So when I'm sitting in my chair working with my clients, those are the 3 things that we're seeing. And subconsciously, we're telling ourselves we have a kind heart, or to be a kind heart, to have a fierce mind, or you have a fierce mind, and to be brave in spirit, and to be that person bravely. So surround yourself with things that are uplifting and encouraging, so that you can be reminded to give yourself a break. You can be reminded to encourage yourself. Now, when we talk about social media, there's a podcast that I do about social media boundaries, right? So maybe if you haven't listened to it, go ahead and search for that and find it, because there's some really good information about social media. But what tends to happen with any kind of media, whether you're on the internet, whether you're on a social media outlet, whether you're watching TV or a movie, we're comparing ourselves to the things that we see. Which, remember, if it's behind a camera, it can sometimes be artificial. Now, if you're watching this podcast on YouTube, I can tell you there's nothing artificial about this background here, right? Limited makeup. I'm noticing now I forgot to put my Ring camera on. The office has paperwork on it, right? Like, this is not a studio. And that's okay, because I don't need to put together this perfect scene. I don't know. Sound might not be perfect, and that's okay, because the message is getting across to you. But sometimes what happens is behind the camera, things are put together perfectly for a reason, and then we set the bar for that for ourselves for everyday life, and that's not everyday life. What we see on the camera for a lot of times is not everyday life. So put it away, right? We're going to be aware of the content, and then we're going to give ourselves permission to put it away, and we're going to stop comparing, to not be in that comparison game. The other thing that you can do is you can spend time alone and reflecting. We sometimes do not spend a lot of time just by ourselves, kind of in our own space in a positive way. Certainly we do, but a lot of times it tends to be negative when we're kind of in our own heads. But I would encourage you to consider instead of just sitting with your thoughts, to do something with those thoughts. And one of the biggest ways to do that is with journaling. Now, you might have just had this like gut punch feeling, thinking, I'm not going to write in a dear diary way. Journaling, I think back in the day when I had my little diary and it had the little teeny lock on it and stuff, and I'd write my deepest, darkest secrets. Certainly journaling can be that. But what we can also do is we can gratitude journal. We can write down all the things that we're thankful and we're grateful for. And we can think about things that are really small. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be these big, huge things. It can be really little things, right? It can be, thank you, I'm grateful for, I'm thankful for. Yesterday, I think I wrote in my gratitude journal, I was grateful for sleeping in. Whatever that is for you, right? I was grateful that I was able to sleep in. One day I wrote in my journal that I was grateful that it was raining for two reasons. One is that I didn't have to water my flowers. This was like towards the end of the summer where the flowers are like just barely hanging on. But I was grateful that it was raining because I didn't have to water my flowers. And I was also grateful because then it gave me a nice reason to like stay in my pajamas and just kind of have a relaxing day, because who doesn't love to just curl up on the couch when it's a rainy day? So thinking outside of the box in terms of gratitude and the things that you're grateful for. It could be, I'm grateful that I remembered to fill up my water bottle so I can take a drink of water, which I'm actually going to do. It can be little things that you're grateful for. The other thing that you can journal is you can journal your wins. So either today I'm going to journal about tomorrow, or tonight I'm going to journal about today, but I'm going to write down 3 things. What are 3 things that are wins? Again, it doesn't have to be big things, right? It could be today a win was that I got my podcast recorded. A win could be it's pink day for the football team. So the win is that I actually remembered to put on pink with my shirt, with my outfit. The win could be I remembered to pack my lunch. The win could be I actually eat the lunch that I packed, right? So it doesn't have to be huge things. You don't have to accomplish these big tasks. But what did I accomplish? Because the people that are standing at the top of the mountain that can see the full picture, they're seeing all those little wins. But are we acknowledging them? So let's acknowledge them. We're going to celebrate the good no matter how big or how small. And then the other way you can journal to give yourself a break is dump the junk. Brain dumping. Grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, put that pen to the paper and start writing. Now, originally, at the very beginning, it's probably going to start out with, I don't know why I'm writing. I listened to this podcast and Jen told me that I needed to journal. I don't know what the heck I'm supposed to journal about, so I'm just going to write. So all the thoughts that are in your head, you're just going to start going. And before you know it, what's going to start to happen is the negative self-talk is going to come out and you're going to dump it out. Because once we give it space on that paper, it's no longer in our head. And you can do something with that paper. You can, toss it in the bonfire. You can shred it. You can tear it up into little pieces of paper. I keep mine in like a notebook, kind of an ongoing thing. And then once that notebook is full, I'm just going to toss the notebook, or, stick it in the burn barrel or something like that. I'm going to not allow all of the negative self-talk to keep real estate in my brain. It doesn't deserve to have space up there. So I'm going to get rid of it. So just a couple of ideas that can help you to consider giving yourself a break. C.S. Lewis is quoted to say, you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. So why not consider, if you've been in this habit of the negative self-talk and holding yourself to a really high standard and not giving yourself a break, why not make today the day that you change that? Make today the day that you say, you know what? I'm going to not be so hard on myself. I'm going to give myself a break. And I'm going to treat myself the way that I treat other people, which is in a kind and caring way. And I'm going to say kind and caring things to myself. I'm going to write those things down. I'm going to journal about them. I'm going to give myself credit where credit is due. And I'm going to celebrate those things because I'm worth celebrating. So I want you to know that you are worth celebrating. I am glad that you took a listen today, and I hope that you will consider giving yourself a break. Feel free to reach out on our social media, shoot us a DM. I'm always open to emails, jennifer@hopehealingtherapy.com. Would love to know how you gave yourself a break today. Have a great one.